Beautiful. So now we have a nice array pattern of stone. Beautiful. All right, so if we want to array this again, right? I mean, there are gonna be two rows, right, left and the right side. We can either duplicate this, Shift D, or we can just add another array modifier, right? As long as we can keep this all procedural, we're going to keep it procedural, right? So I'm gonna array this, and now we want the Y direction, but I want, the X direction, but I want the negative one. And then we can just crank up this X direction, right? So how wide do we want this building to be? I'm guessing it is, I can actually count this now, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pillars wide. So I'm just going to guess the distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, fine. Right, we can tweak this. We can tweak this later if we want. Okay, so this is going to be the foundation, for example, for our temple. Very beautiful. And this is all very, very low poly because you remember our original pillar is low poly. And if we make an instance, right, an array makes an instance of your object, it is going to use the same object data, which means it's going to be very, very nice for your computer. Okay, so let's actually swipe this to the sides. I'm gonna press RZ90 on this one because now I wanna work from the front a little bit more. All right, so let's actually swipe these three objects to the front and see if we can get it to align a little bit better. RZ90, there we go, Control Z. If that ever happens to you, where your objects rotate around different origins, you most likely have your pivot point set to individual origins, right? So just reset that back to a median point, RZ90, and it will rotate around the median points of the selected objects, right? Very useful. All right, let's go to front view. Let's see, we're actually going to swipe this there, and oh my god, we actually guessed that distance quite well, didn't we? Hell yeah. All right, so for example, we already have, damn it. We already have a nice distance with a nice foundation for our pillars, right? So obviously this is only a plane, right? We need to stretch this up all the way because that is how it goes. So, well, how do we do that? How do we actually connect everything we see here? Now, the fun part is that we don't have to connect everything, right? Just try and figure out how this thing was built in the first place, right? Which is magic, to be honest, you know. Things that are built in the history are sometimes a little magical. But you know, you can see the different parts in the pillars, which is what we already made. You can see that the stone is placed on top as well. And this entire roof, well, it looks like one part. I'm guessing there's some splits in there somewhere as well. But you know, they're built up in layers pretty much, right? Bottom to top. Otherwise, you can't build from the top, guys. That doesn't work. So we're just going to assume that we have like a square first that goes all the way across our objects, right? And then we have some thicker parts here where the pillars are, right? We have those stones, some thicker stones, and that continues as well. And then we can see that we got some thicker arrays here some places as well, right? So at every line where we have a pillar, I think we got a little bit of a thicker spot of that slab as well. I'm guessing, okay? I'm just guessing. Right, so if we want to do something like that, how do we achieve it? Well, this is going to be a pattern as well, I guess, right? We have a thick part, and right after we may have a thin part. Right after we have a thick part, and then we have a thin part, and then we have a thick part, a thin part, a thick part, right? So it's repetitive. And repetitiveness always has a nice array that we can use behind it. Okay, so what we're going to do is I am just going to press Shift A, Mesh, Cube, and let's just bring that more to the front, right? Somewhere it actually belongs later on. And I'm going to swipe this a bit more to the middle there. And what we can actually do is select our triangle. I'm not sure what it's called actually, but you know, select the triangle, Shift S, cursor to select it, because we know that this origin is nice and in the middle. So we're going to select our cube now, Shift S, selection to cursor. So now our cube should be nice and in the middle as well. All right, so let's bring that down. right about where it has to start. Reference image, remember, we always want to see how it goes. All right, so we want this to be below this part, right? So we're going to go to the side view, see where the pillar starts, and start this slab right there. Beautiful. And we're going to go into edit mode, select the top part, and just bring it down a little bit. So we have about the same thickness of this slab, right? I'm gonna just guess that. You know, it's a lot of guesswork. So I'm just gonna swipe that up, and I'm gonna swipe this entire part up. Sorry, all of them. Swipe all of them up right above that part, because this is going to be placed on top of this slab, right? So here we go. Let's press S, X, scale that up in the X direction. And you may notice that I work in a render mode, in cycles rendering right now. Even when I'm modeling, I do that from time to time. I'm not sure why. If my computer can handle being in rendered view and modeling at the same time without me being distracted by it having to render every single time I move my camera, then sometimes I will just work in render view just so I know what exactly I'm looking at. You know, just try that out for yourself and see what you like more. Okay, so this part sticks out a little bit, just a little bit. Something like, well, we can just match it up on the right, I guess. Here we go. Right, so for each slab, for each part of the pillar, we have a little bit of a down part as well. So I'm going to swipe this a bit to the right. For example, if we wanted to be connecting to the edge, or maybe a little bit of an overlap, and maybe a little bit of an overlap here as well, just a little bit, something like that. And we'll have to tweak that later, and you'll see why. Something like this. Then if we now want a lower part as well, we can actually just, let's see, we can hit Ctrl R there, and then press 3 and just extrude only the top parts a little bit to the right. For example, something like this. And then we're going to array this, and actually we need to move this more to the right, because we're going to array this, which means that this right part has to end where our new part is going to start, pretty much, right? So what I'm going to do is just press array now, and we don't need X, we need Y, and you can see if we set this at 1, it's going to be perfect already, right? It's going to connect nicely, and we can even enable merge. It'll try to merge the vertices that we have there, so make it one object, and we can crank that up. And at some point, you'll see that it's going to be, unless I did this perfectly on the first go, which will be very interesting, there is at some point going to be a little bit of an offset. You can already see it happening here, right? A little bit of an offset here. So if I crank this all the way up to the right, which is going to be, well, we counted it about 14, then, well, we're going to have the final part here. Beautiful. So now we can see that it's actually going to be a little bit to the left here, right? A little bit more to the left. So what we can do is crank up the Y value a little bit, and you can see that even while we hold shift, it's going to move it a lot, because it has to add that distance to each and every array, of course, right? So something like this. There's a nice array, and we can set this to like a custom value 0.006. Let's see, maybe a little bit more, 75. Beautiful, right? Something like this. And well, now we need to connect this back up, of course. So go to edit mode and just move this a little bit more to the right. Oh, well, that doesn't matter. That doesn't work, of course. So we're going to move this a bit more to the right. Here we go. And then we're going to decrease this a tiny bit to the left, right? So you can see that sometimes it is quite a struggle, right? Maybe we could just set it to 1, don't matter the water. Don't worry about it, right? So now we have the same kind of result, okay? So leave this as 1 and go into edit mode and then just move your edge, right? Remember, it is going to be arrayed at your endpoint if you have 1, which means that we can just move that endpoint and it will move the entire array modifier, right? So now we have this set up pretty nicely, right? This is going to be that first layer of our temple, right? Only the final part is being silly. We got a little extra there. which is fine. Okay. We can now do two things, right? We can either apply this, go to edit mode, and just delete this and then connect this back up, right? Very easy, very easy. The only thing is that now it is not procedural anymore, right? Because we actually applied the modifier, which means that we don't have control of it anymore. So this is where you think if you are okay with that or if you're not okay with that, right? If you're not, there are shortcuts we can take to still keep this an array. But I think that we're fine, right? I'm actually pretty happy with the length, the width, and the dimensions of this temple, which means I'm just going to leave this as it is now. Okay, there's no reason for me to really go back and change that right now. So yeah, let's just keep it like this. And otherwise, it's very easy to just add a new one. Right, so we're just going to go with this. All right, so let's actually connect this front part. And well, we basically need to extrude that all around as well. Right, because well, we can imagine that this part is completely, well, like it's a solid object as well. I'm guessing these parts, the sculptures, those little dents at the endpoints, they're placed on later, right? This is just me estimating how this thing is built, so don't use as like a scientific resource or anything, obviously. But yeah, we can now just scale this up a little bit in the X direction, all right? So you can see, but they're not places exactly in the middle. So I'm just going to move that manually a little bit more to the left there. Beautiful. Scale that up a little bit like that. Amazing. All right, so this one as well, just scale it up a little bit. Here we go. Now, side view, right? Remember, it is important to switch from time to time. I want this to be connected there. Beautiful. And well, let's just connect this one at the same time, right? Something like that. Beautiful. Right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to extrude this entire thing all the way to the end there, right? And if you want this to end exactly at this plane right here, we can just enable the snapping mode, right? The little magnet button at the top. And then we can press G, Y, and then hover your mouse over the edge. Boop. Here we go. Now I pressed G. I should have pressed E. E is extrude. G is move. My brain does not work all the time. Don't worry. Press E, Y, and then just connect that there. Right. So any part that is extruded, apart from the front parts, of course, this is UV unwrapped, and it will still be UV unwrapped if we extrude that. And the rest of this material is going to look like garbage. Absolute garbage. Right. So what we need pretty much is to define different parts of this mesh with a different kind of surface, a different texture, right? So think about the next step, guys. Really think about it, okay? You can shade the top part, but we are going to add stuff on top, so why would you bother shading the top part? Okay, you can now say, well, I want my object to be clean, okay? I want everything to have a proper texture. But why? But why, guys? You are literally never going to see this top part. Let's just leave it like this, right? Just leave it. Doesn't matter. You will at some point find out that it's all about saving time. And trust me, I know how to do it. Right, so we're just not going to shade that. Doesn't matter at all. Right, so now, next thing. We have this side part to worry about. Right, so what we can do is go to side view. Let's open up the UV editor on this right side there. Let's press U and unwrap. All right, and just unwrapping makes it weird. Press U and just project it from view. All right, and let's open up that texture again. What was it called? I can't remember it from last time. Engraving diffuse. Okay, perfect. Let's go back to the UV editor. And let's just select our engraving texture at the top here, right? Select that little icon, search for engraving diffuse, and then you'll see how your UV is pretty much located compared to your texture, right? So we can now swipe this to the same texture as we have on the front here, except that, well, we have writing in the front, and I don't want that writing to be all over the side. So I'm cheating this again, guys. I'm just going to use the side pattern here for the sides. You know, why not? I'm going to reuse as much as I can from the same texture because it saves me time, you know. First things first, I'm going to scale this down a little bit in the X direction, scale it up in the Y direction a little bit, S, Y. Here we go. Remember, in the UV editor, you won't have Z as the up direction, but it's going to be Y because it is 2D, okay? So rotate that there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, there we go. Nice. Now we obviously need this entire UV to be captured in this thing. So I'm just gonna select my right two parts, press double G or just G, it doesn't matter. Move that to the side. Right, so we have some stretching going on, but because it is a quite nice pattern, we really won't be able to tell. Right, beautiful. So that is how I cheat, and I like it. So we can even change that. If we want to incorporate this top part as well, for example, we can just swipe that to there, swipe that to, well, let's also include this nice bottom edge there. Ooh, let's just use more details of this texture. Why not? And we can now swipe this to the top there. And this, let's connect it to the point. And this one to be perpendicular 90-degree angle, something like that. So now we even get the top part and the bottom part. Now, of course, make sure that it doesn't look weird. And it does a little bit, okay? So that is because we have these hard contrast areas of the shadow, these parts there, which doesn't match up really well with the front. So Control Z this a few times, you know, trial and error. And let's move this there. We need to Control Z a few more times. Here we go. All right, that looks better, right? So remember what I did previously. If we have edges that don't line up, I'm going to select that edge, Shift S cursor to select it, go out of edit mode, Shift A, mesh cube. Scale it down, scale it up. Like that. Beautiful. Press A. Oh, sorry, tab A, U, cube project. Well, it is a cube. We can just cube project. Yeah, that doesn't matter. And I'm going to hold Shift, select our main object, Control L, and link up those materials. Now select it, tap, and now just let's swipe this entire texture into something that doesn't have that much crazy parts. Something like here, all that there is some lines. And you can see that we have a nice cube in the size. Well, I don't really like that texture a lot. So let's see. We can even smart UV project that. Nah. All right, we're just gonna move it here, I guess. Something like this. I just want it nice and plain. And then I'm gonna add a bevel modifier. Bevel. Now press Ctrl A to apply all transforms in the left window. Select your object first. Ctrl A. Right, if you don't apply everything with a bevel modifier, it is usually going to look weird because the bevel depends on the scale of your object as well, right? So if you have a stretched scale in the Z direction, for example, that bevel in the Z direction is also going to be stretched, right? So apply it. And now we can crank down the amount a little bit, just like that. And we can, for example, set this to 3, just like that. And if we now press tab and A and U and cube project, the texture is going to look a lot better as well because we unwrapped it with an actual applied scale, which is usually better, right? So now we can actually get some details there as well, right? So beautiful. This covers up the seam at that edge. It just looks like we, for stability purposes, added a nice beam there that supports these two slabs being joined together, for example, right? Cheating in the best way. So that is how we do that. How much time? Oh, we are already at 15. All right. I'll stop it here because, you know, we just will. All right. So I hope that helped. Thank you all for listening in.